Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is Sunday, February the 7th, 10 o'clock in the morning here, Calgary, Alberta time, and I'm just waking up here today and just enjoying being off work and glad to be here. So I hope you're all well. I know there's some big storms on the East Coast, and I have lots of friends out on the East Coast, and we didn't get as much snow here as you guys did, that's for sure. I was looking at that on the news, and it's just a mess over there, so you guys be safe over there. And yeah, this is Child Abuse Prevention, and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is up to us. We're on for half an hour here. This is blogtalkradio.com, a live internet streaming radio broadcast, and I cover subjects of regarding and related to child abuse and human rights abuses, really, men, women, children. And last Sunday we were talking about, and actually the last few Sundays we were talking about drug abuse and addiction, signs, symptoms, and help for drug problems. And I found this information on a website that I really like to refer to. I like this website. They have great information on it. And it's www.helpguide.org. So yeah, I'm just happy you can be here, and I'll just say it for all those who might not know and haven't heard, this is not a professional show, and I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I don't have any professional certificates of any kind. I'm just a person who sits on Blog Talk Radio, and I do about 10 shows a week. And it's just because I really want to share the information that I'm finding. I'm a student at MRU. I'm just in between courses and taking some time off. And I thought, I'm still researching all the time. And I'm also a survivor of child abuse and secondhand domestic violence. So I thought, what's a better way than to spend my time than to share what I'm finding, that can spread some hope and just share some hope with people. And, I'm not a counselor or a therapist, like I said, and, I'm not a professional of any kind, and so I don't want you to think that this is a professional show, and that I would really prefer that everyone seek real help if they're dealing with issues that they just can't seem to work out. But you can always get a hold of me as a friend, because that's what I'm here for. And I'm just so glad to be here, and I just thank you for all the support. I have a lot of support and a lot of people who I call my dear friends all around the world, England and Australia and the United States and just everywhere. And I thank you all very much, and I couldn't do it it wouldn't be any point to do this without you, so I thank you so much. And so therefore, we want to listen at your own discretion. If the topic of abuse, if you're sensitive to it and it might cause triggering or might cause you to feel bad, please don't listen to the show, because it's not worth it. There's other things to listen to, and I just know we all know what we can listen to, what's good for us to listen to. So if the subjects bother you, please turn it off, because it's not worth it. And I want everybody to be in a safe place. And if you're a youngster and you're under the age of 18, maybe have a family member. If you don't have a family member, which we know that's quite often the case, who can listen to this with you, maybe someone in your school, a coach or a counselor, or someone that you look up to, who has a good head on their shoulders, and maybe they could listen to it with you and just give you some guidance, because the topics of abuse, really, it's very sensitive and very painful for most people. And so, that's why I just want to make sure everyone is safe and in a good place when they're listening to this, right? And we're going to continue on today talking about drug abuse and addiction. It's such a huge problem. It was in my life. It was in our family's life for so many years. And thank God I'm drug-free. I mean, I'm still smoking cigarettes, but I plan on quitting tonight. Tomorrow I'm supposed to be a non-smoker by tomorrow morning. So, I quit before and then got stressed out and started smoking again about 6 weeks ago. So I'm quitting again, and I just need all the support I can get. So I know what it's like to be dealing with drug addictions, drug problems, drug abuse in a person's life. And it happens for many reasons, and there's many reasons why people do it. And there's so many people whose lives are being ruined and completely destroyed by drug abuse. And that's why I thought it's so important for us to talk about this, and realize that these are people. These are someone's family members, someone's sons and daughters, someone's sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles. I mean, we're talking grandmas and grandpas, everyone. These people are worth our time. They're worth our love. And it's just so sad when we see what happens to people. I know two of my brothers were drug users, and one committed suicide, and the other one died of a drug overdose. And so, I mean, in my own family, I know what drugs do to people, and I could have gone the same way. I quit doing drugs at the age of 21. And I could have gone the same way, but I realized I didn't want my life to go that way. I wanted a better life, and at that point, I realized that I was going to have to make the decision on what kind of life that I wanted to have. And so, it's just so important, to reach out. Make sure you reach out and get some help if you're suffering with this. And there's great websites and great support groups, and we all know how tough it is. If you've experienced it, you know how tough it is. And so I'm just standing with you, and I just, my heart is with you. And so we'll just get right on. We'll just kind of start talking about this this article that I found. We were reading from it. We were looking at the effects of drug abuse and addiction on a person's life, on your health and employment, crime. There's denial and rationalization of drug use, right? Staying addicted is just a real problem. Drug abuse in the family is what I wanted to look at today. It was the next sort of piece that they had written here, and this is from www.helpguide.org. And that's Understand, Prevent, and Resolve Life's Challenges. It's a great website. They have everything on there, from everything to do with issues that might come up in someone's life, and so it's really great. It says they do say on their stuff that this material is for information and support, not a substitute for professional advice, and that's why I say this show is not a substitute for professional advice either. So important to make sure you get proper help from people who are trained, right? Real people who care and are trained. And if you can't find a good therapist, keep looking. I would say if you had some therapy before and it didn't work out, I've heard this from lots of people, then just keep moving on and try someone else, because there has to be someone out there who can relate to what you're talking about and actually have some good, positive ways for you to work through these issues. I know myself, I'm not beyond seeking therapy. So it's just so good, right? We deserve to have a good life. That's why I'm doing this show. So we'll just keep reading here. This part is actually about family, the family and drug abuse, right? Family stress, and when someone when someone you love has a drug abuse or addiction problem, it says you may not immediately realize that someone you love has a drug problem. It may have started slowly, and your loved one might also have tried to hide the extent of the drug use from you. You might have gotten so used to the drug abuse that coping with it seems almost natural, almost normal, or the realization that there is something seriously wrong is almost too painful to admit. Don't be ashamed, and you are not alone. Drug abuse affects millions of families from every socioeconomic status, race, and culture. There is help and support available. So, it's really hard on families, and I know myself firsthand. It says here, family stress. If you have someone you love abusing drugs, it is an enormous emotional strain. You might feel obligated to cover the abuser, cutting back from work to deal with the abuser's problems, or work more to make financial ends meet. You might not be able to see friends and engage in hobbies, as coping with the abuse takes more and more time, right, with the drug abuse. The shame of drug abuse in the family stops many family members from asking for help, instead pretending nothing is wrong. The emotional toll can be overwhelming, and children are especially sensitive. And that's very true. I know in my own family, when my brothers were living in the home and there was drug abuse going on, it was very stressful, and it was just allowed to go on. No one got any help from my brothers. My parents were not capable. They were not emotionally stable enough to do it. Growing up in an abusive home, they really didn't have the coping skills or the coping mechanisms to raise a large family, and their marriage was just so messed up for so many years and they didn't reach out and get any help, see? So the kids, we all sort of faltered, and some went to drugs and some didn't. Some of my siblings didn't do that at all and did quite well for themselves, and others floundered. So that's just how it can happen in a large family, right? And it's just terrible because they didn't reach out. My brothers didn't reach out, as far as I know. They just didn't get the proper help. I think, they didn't run into the proper people or the resources that they needed, and obviously that's why they're not here today. It's just sad, and I just don't wish that on anyone, and I hope that anyone who's suffering with this can find the proper and appropriate resources for themselves and for the person in their life who's suffering from this, because it's so horribly destructive, and it's just a bad way to live your life, right? So it's just important to get help. It says what the person abusing drugs might say if you confront them about their usage. So this is like if you were to confront someone about their drug use, this is something that they might say. They say, I'm just reading right from the page here. You can follow along at www.helpguide.org if you like, and just go click on there and go into the mental and drug substance abuse section. It says, I can get sober anytime I want to. I've done it lots of times. So this is something that someone might say to you if you've actually confronted them. The key to recovery is staying sober, not constantly cycling through the process. Even if the person abusing drugs is able to resist for a little while, usually the cravings are too strong to resist during times of stress. And, I see that in my own self. I was able to quit smoking after 25 years. It was hard, but I did it. And then a stressful situation happened, and there I go, smoking again. See, this can happen. We know it does. It says, here's another question. Here's something else they might say to you. Why do you exaggerate so much? I'm hardly using at all. Remember, denial is a key part of drug addiction. The person using drugs might actually believe they are not using as much as they are, right? Because it's a way to actually not have to deal with it by just saying, oh, well, I'm not using as much as you think I am. I'm just doing this little bit, right? It's just a way to sort of skirt around the issue that there's a problem. And I know because I've done that myself. And they might also say, it's your fault. If you wouldn't stress me out so much, maybe I wouldn't need to use drugs as often. And then they said here, it is never your fault that someone is using drugs. Even if they are feeling stressed, there are other coping skills they can choose to use. So really, that's the thing. I used to blame my parents for my drug use, and my mom would confront me on it and stuff when I was still living in the home, a young kid, and I'd just be like, you're the one that drove me to this, and really, actually, I thought that she did, but it was just the choice that I made to cope with the pain. I was really just trying to escape, and our family really needed an intervention, and it just didn't happen, right? Here's what they have written here: understanding what is involved in recovery. You cannot force someone you love to stop abusing drugs. As much as you may want to, and as hard as it is seeing the effects of drug abuse, you cannot make someone stop using. The final choice is up to them. The right support can help you make positive choices for yourself and encouraging your loved one to get help without losing yourself in the process, right? So there's like Al-Anon and Co-Anon for families. If you know someone if someone in your life is using drugs and it's just having an effect on you, which it usually does, there's support groups out there with people who are going through the very same things, or similar anyway, and close enough. So you can just contact these, like Al-Anon, Co-Anon, there's all kinds of the Al-Anon groups, and you can get some support from people who know what it's like, or dealing with it, or have been there and are just there to support people who are just coming in. It's so important because they can just be there for you, a shoulder, and just offer some support, and also maybe some tips on how to deal with it, right? How to not lose yourself in the process, because that's just so important, right? It says, don't expect your loved one to be able to quit without support. Withdrawal symptoms can be unpleasant, painful, and even deadly. While medical input is always a good idea, if your loved one is addicted to benzodiazepines, I don't really even know how to pronounce that, or is a heavy drinker, withdrawal can be dangerous and should be done under medical supervision. So see, we know for a fact, there's so many people on drugs out there, illegal drugs out there, or even legal prescription drugs who it's really dangerous for them to even come off of that stuff. And so they do need they need the medical professional care. And no one wants to lose a loved one to drugs. I know this firsthand, and I know there's millions of people suffering right now out there with this, mothers and fathers and daughters and brothers and everybody. And it's just so sad. It's very sad. And my heart is with you, because I know what it's like. My brother used to OD, and he used to OD in the house, and one time he OD'd on the kitchen floor and almost died. Well, he actually died. They said he had died for I don't know how many minutes. They brought him back, and he was in a coma for quite some time. But I just watched him dying on a kitchen floor, and meantime, here comes the paramedics trying to get him back to life and everything. And it was just horrible, and no one wants to lose a loved one like that. And eventually, so many years later, he died of a drug overdose at a shelter. So he never did ever get any help, right? Just horrible. Recovery will be an ongoing process, they said. Someone who abused drugs will not suddenly be a cured person once sober. Drug use may have been masking painful feelings that will bubble up to the surface. Many in recovery experience depressed moods for up to a year or more as their brain reestablishes from the drug abuse. Learning new coping skills to resist cravings and how to apply them in stressful situations is an ongoing process. Ongoing support is crucial to work through those issues, and that's why I know myself. It's an ongoing issue to keep working through all this stuff and keep walking it out. And every day, I just that's all we can do is our best. And I think as long as we're reaching out and really want to get that help and really want to have a good life, but you have to be serious about it. You have to be on purpose about it, and you have to make a decision that you're not going to ruin your life anymore, you know what I mean, sort of thing. And then look at the issues underneath and start to heal from that. That's kind of, that's sort of my process. That's how it happened for me. I was using drugs to mask the pain in my heart, and it just, it didn't really do anything for me, because then when I stopped using drugs, I had to deal with all this stuff that had been just putting off because I was just pushing it down and not allowing it to surface, see. So then I had to deal with all of this underlying stuff, and it really took a long, long time. But I didn't reach out and get proper professional help, and I think that's a lot of the issue. So I think I would have been a lot better a lot sooner had I done that. And so that's why it's just so important to reach out, get some real help, some real professional help. And they have a little section here. It's called See Treatment for Drug Abuse and Addiction. You can just click on that. If you go on their website, you can click on that little link, and it takes you to, it says for more information on recovery and different treatment options. You can click on there and it'll bring up the next information. And finding support, they said, a good place to start looking for support is through local support groups. Listening to others with the same challenges can be a tremendous source of comfort and support. Al-Anon is a free peer support group for families coping with alcohol abuse. It may be a good place to begin, as these groups are the most numerous, and frequently alcohol is abused with other drugs as well. Similar to Al-Anon, there are several support groups for families coping with specific drug abuse as well. And here they list these. These include Nar-Anon for families coping with narcotic abuse, and Co-Anon for families coping with cocaine abuse. Information about these groups can be found in related links below. Other sources of help and support include trusted friends, a therapist, or a pastor, or a rabbi. So, there's lots of support out there. We have to just make sure we reach out. I found that out, as I've been reaching out and stuff and finding these support groups for my own healing and stuff. I'm finding that there's so many people out there who have experienced the same things and can really offer a good word for me, and I just appreciate it because it's great. Keeping your family safe. It says dealing with a loved one's drug abuse can be emotionally draining and exhausting, but when the family is threatened with immediate violence, it's time for immediate action. Drug abuse can lower inhibitions and increase the possibility of violence. Stimulants like cocaine and methamphetamine can also trigger delusions, paranoia, and agitation, making the person especially dangerous to be around. I know this firsthand. Getting the drug may also become so important that activities like caring for a child fall by the wayside, increasing the chance of child neglect. So it's just, we all, if you've experienced it and you've been around someone who uses some of these drugs, you know what they're like and what can happen, and it's horrible, and it's just bad because if they weren't using those drugs, they might not be doing the things that they do. And you would hope not anyway, right? If it's just a lot of it is brought on by the drug itself, and I know because I did quite a lot of drugs from the age of 12 to 21, and so I know my behavior was directly, a result of the drug use a lot of times, and it can cause you to do all kinds of weird things that you probably wouldn't normally do, and it's just bad. It's very destructive, and it destroys families, and I just think it's awful. So yeah, starting down the road to recovery, we'll take a look at that. If you are abusing drugs, even admitting that you have a problem is a huge step. It takes tremendous strength and courage to admit that you are having trouble. Much as you may want to, don't try to quit alone. Recovery is possible with the right medical help and social support. Without the right support, it is very easy to rationalize just one more hit or pill, and withdrawal symptoms can test the strongest resolve. The road to sobriety is rewarding but challenging. If you take the time to build a support network and learn your triggers for using, you will greatly reduce the risk of relapse. And I think that's so important, right? So important, just to have that support group, and so that when you're feeling all of a sudden something happens, something at work or something in your home happens and it causes you to trigger and makes you want to go get high or do whatever you do or that you used to do, right? It'd be so much better to have a person that you could phone who had who was available to you really 24 hours a day, that you could say, buddy, I need you right now because I want to go use, but I don't want to. You need to walk me through this. And really, a lot of times I think that so many people don't have that support, and I think that's the issue. And so if you're listening and you know someone who's in that position, and they really want to quit and stuff, but they just need someone in their life to say, you can do it. I am standing with you. Make the phone call. Let them know that you're there. And I try to be that way in my life because I know how hard it is to find people who actually do care. And so, it's hard. People just want to tune it out because they don't want to deal with it. But the thing is if you find someone who cares, let them know that you just need that help, because if they really care about you, they'll do that for you. And it's just so important. Not everybody has the resources to really, do what they'd like to do for a person. I know myself, I'm in that situation, and I'm working sometimes not. I'm not financially able to help people. I'm just kind of just making it, and so we don't always all have the resources, the financial resources to do what we want to do for people. But as long as you're an ear and you can just remain a good support for them, that helps too, because they know then that they can trust you and that your shoulder is available for them, and if they just need to talk, you're there for them. That's worth more than any kind of money to me. And so that's what I mean. Just being a good friend to people, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Related articles regarding treatment and starting down the road to recovery, they list here. There's little links you can click on: drug rehab and treatment, so drug detox, addiction, recovery, and support. And then they also have alcohol treatment, rehab, and detox, how to stop drinking and start recovery. So, man, I just love this website. More help guide articles on this sort of thing is anxiety attacks and disorders, feeling suicidal, understanding depression, kind of all linked with what could be happening and going on in a person's life when they're using drugs, or someone who knows someone who's using drugs, right? So important. And they also have related links for drug abuse and addiction here, commonly used drugs, drug addiction signs and symptoms. That's what we're looking at right now. Prescription drug abuse and substance abuse symptoms checklist. There's just so much good stuff here. There's also drug abuse and addiction in teens and young adults, and information for families coping with drug abuse and addiction. So this website's just awesome, and if you need any more information, please get a hold of me. I thought I wanted to continue on with another article I found that is related. It's from the same website, www.helpguide.org. It's called Substance Abuse and Mental Health, because I think a lot of times, I know in my case, I was using to escape an abusive childhood, and just a lot of negativity, and our parents just didn't they were not. It's not that they didn't want to. I think they didn't know how to encourage us to become involved in like school activities, or they didn't try to say, oh, it'd be great if you could join a club, or even they didn't have the money to support that sort of thing, but they didn't have the emotional well-being to do that either. So I fell in with people who were in my same shoes, who were drug users as a very young person. And so we were all kind of using drugs really for the same reason, because they were all pretty much growing up in abusive homes too. So it's just the way it happens with a lot of people. And, there's a lot of mental and emotional issues kind of a lot of times that are underlying in substance abuse. And I know with my brothers that was totally the case. And so I just thought we'd take a look at this article too. We'll start it. I don't think we'll be able to finish it. We've only got about 6 minutes left here. But this article is great. Substance abuse and mental health, overcoming alcohol and drug addiction while coping with depression or anxiety. So I think this is so good. There's co-occurring disorders when substance abuse is complicated by mental health problems. And then they take a look at what comes first, substance abuse or the mental health problems. These are some good questions, right? Recognizing and diagnosing co-occurring disorders, signs and symptoms of alcohol or drug addiction. And then they go on to list signs and symptoms of common co-occurring disorders, treatment for co-occurring disorders, and things like that. And just some great resources and stuff on here, seeking self-help for keeping recovery on track and symptoms checklist. I mean, there's some great stuff here. So we're going to continue on with that next Sunday. I was working on actually Monday, Wednesday, Friday night talking about coping with stress and trauma. It just sort of led into that, and I was going to talk about that today, but I remembered that we were talking about drug abuse and signs and symptoms and how to get treatment and help. So I'm glad that I did, because I really want to keep on with this. Next Sunday we're going to continue on with this substance abuse and mental health, and it says when you have both a substance abuse problem and a mental health issue, such as depression, bipolar disorder, or anxiety, it is called dual diagnosis. Dealing with alcoholism or drug addiction is never easy, and it's even more difficult when you're also struggling with mental health problems. But there are treatments that can help. With proper treatment and support, you can overcome substance abuse, get the symptoms of depression or anxiety under control, and reclaim your life. I love it. Reclaim your life. That is so good. Oh, we could do a Blog Talk radio show about reclaiming your life. That is awesome. Because I tell you what, I reclaimed mine, and it was not an easy road, let me tell you that. But I want to just be a voice for people to know that if you keep reaching out and you really seriously want and know that you can have a good life, you have to keep the hope alive, and you get some positive people in your life who can help you. You don't want to hang around with people who are negative and bringing you down, or if you're someone who's living in an abusive home and you're in danger, call 911. Do not allow yourself to be killed, injured, maimed. It's not right. You don't deserve it. If your child is being abused and your child's life is being threatened, call 911. You have to make the right choice. And if you're feeling down and you can't cope, there's crisis lines. You dial those crisis lines. It's so important. So I'm going to read out some references. There's Al-Anon, because we're talking about this, right? Al-Anon, Alateen. It's at www.al-anon, Alateen, ALATEEN.org. So you can just type into your browser Al-Anon, it'll bring it right up. And they have local listings in local telephone books and for the meetings and stuff. And they have a 1-8 like a hotline. 1-8. It's not really a hotline. I think it's only open Monday through Friday from normal working hour, normal business hours. 1-888-425-2666. But if you look in your in your phone book in the front there, you can see the listings for like Al-Anon, crisis lines. If you're having problems and you just can't cope, you make sure you dial those crisis lines, right? And there's Co-Anon, www.co-anon.org, for friends and family of cocaine addicts. And then there's a great group out there, and I'm just gonna do a little brief announcement on them, because this is so great. Let me just find the information here for you. I'm a volunteer with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. I'm the Canada Regional Director, and I'm so happy to stand with them. And if you need information regarding Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, get a hold of me. I'm just so thrilled about this, and I'm just glad and really appreciate all your support. And here's the information here on the Guardians of the Children. And these guys, this is a group of people who, I'm telling you, they are doing some awesome work. It's called the Guardians of the Children. And a nice guy that I was talking to is he's the sort of the fundraiser and sort of leads the fundraising team for the New York, Long Island, New York chapter. So that's GOCLINY.com. The Long Island, New York chapter is a family within itself who all share a passion for helping the innocent and fighting child abuse. Our mission is to raise awareness, serve to protect, and to aid any child in need in our area. The Long Island chapter of the GOC-COGLINY was formed in December 2008 by several friends who share a passion for riding motorcycles and helping victims of child abuse. This is so awesome. I'm going to give you guys some more information another time. They have a hotline, and you can phone their hotline at 631-569-2629, and you can find their websites at www.guardiansofthechildren.com. They are national. They're in Nevada, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Long Island, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, everywhere. And they do some great work. I'm just happy to see that. They have a raffle go. They have a little contest going on for a motorcycle, and they are raffling off tickets for $25. Get a hold of them if you're interested in that, and I'll give you some more information another time. You guys take care. I'll be back on tonight and again tomorrow morning, 5:30. One child abuse survivor to another. Take good care, everyone, and keep reaching out. Keep that hope alive. Okay. Talk to you real soon.